Hey y'all, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Khy. This is Deep Dive with Khy. So today we're going to be talking about the importance of killing the ego, being aware of ego, being aware of where it comes from, and how to stop it. So like I said, without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. Let's go. Okay. In order to construct this conversation about ego, it's important for us to think about or to talk about what ego is first. So, what is ego? Ego is essentially our brain's way of understanding or creating an identity for ourselves based on worldly awareness. When I say based on worldly awareness, a lot of the times our ego and what our ego tells us about ourselves is either confirmed by the world or is reaffirmed by the world if we already believe it about ourselves. So, what do I mean by that? So the world can tell me, or I can grow up feeling like I am beautiful. And then, so that's confirming it, right? That confirms it in my ego to a certain extent. And then throughout my life, I may have more access to things, more options when it comes to romantic partners, which will affirm those things within me. Okay. On the flip side of that, my ego can tell me that I'm not beautiful. And the world confirms that by maybe me not hearing that I'm beautiful from people as much as often. And number two, by me having limited access to some of those things that having beauty can give me access to. So more romantic partners, having jobs related to beauty, right? So therefore, that's all ego is about, is our brain's ability to try to make sense of who we are based on what the world has to tell us about who we are. Why it's important for us to recognize this is because living a world or living a life where we're concerned with and overwhelmed with our understanding of ourselves based on our ego can be very dangerous. Okay. Now, I know this all based on experience, right? Life is experiential. Life is literally all about going through life. It's important to know that having an inflated ego doesn't mean that I think I'm all that in a bag of chips. Like, an inflated ego can also be, I think I'm nothing. I think I'm not important. I think I'm not beautiful. I think I'm not smart, right? So that's why it's important for us to detach ourselves from our ego as much as possible, because either way, it's going to lead us to not being sure who we are. And let me tell you why. Our ego is dangerous for mostly two reasons. And those reasons are basically based on the fact that this world is pretty subjective. And when I say subjective, I really mean that people have different experiences and understandings of life that is going to impact the way they interact with you. And so if you base your understanding of yourself based on the world and based on people in the world, your understanding of yourself will never be constant, because the world is subjective. The world is ever changing. The world is flaky. Okay. Just think about how living was 10 years ago compared to now. We're in 2024. Think about life in 2014. Like, it was just different, like in many different ways. And that's the same 5 years ago, right? So if we connect our identity to the world, we'll never really be able to anchor ourselves to something. Anchor ourselves to who we truly are and be able to really see our true identity. So going back to what I said, ego is dangerous for two reasons. And the main two reasons is that once you come in contact with a person or with something that doesn't confirm or affirm what you believe about yourself due to your ego, one of two things can happen. Okay? The first thing that can happen is that you become confused or devalue your understanding of yourself or devalue your placement in the world based on the fact that that person doesn't see you the way the world has told you that you are to be seen. The second thing that can happen is that you immediately assume or feel like this person is attacking you, or this person doesn't like you, or this person is like not being truthful with you because of how they interact with you or because of something that they've told you about yourself. Now, the first point that I said, which is you being devalued or you being confused, leads to a couple things. So let's talk about that first. Then we'll go to number two. What that can lead to is one, low self-esteem. That's the first thing it can lead to. Because if I'm telling myself something about myself and things that are happening in the world, not just people, but things that are happening in the world contradicts that, then I start to believe clearly there's something wrong with me. So if I tell myself that I'm smart, but I failed this test, or I'm studying to be a realtor and I failed my real estate exam, and I tell myself that I'm smart and that's who I am as a person, is a smart person, and I failed this exam, suddenly if my understanding of myself is rooted in that, there's a crisis within myself. Because first I'm confused. Like, am I really who I said I was? You know what I mean? Like, am I really this person? The second thing is you start to second guess, which causes your esteem to lower. Okay, so you start to stop believing those things about yourself, which is clear that it can easily be moved and shake, right? Ego can easily be moved. And so that's why it's important for us to ground ourselves in things that are outside our ego. And we'll talk about that more. Another reason why basically connecting ourselves to what people may feel about us, if it contradicts what we already think about ourselves, right, is dangerous, is because it can lead to a fear of rejection or a fear of abandonment. Okay, so what does that mean? Fear of rejection means I'm not sure of who I am. I'm not 100% secure in what I think about myself. Therefore, I'm worried about how I'm going to show up in this person's eyes if I make myself exposed in this way. So fear of rejection is very important, okay? Because if this is a good example about like beauty. If I think that I'm beautiful, and then say for example I'm a model, right? And I think that I'm beautiful, but based in my ego, right? And I go to a modeling agency, I have an audition, and they're like, nah, like you're not the girl I'm looking for. Like your body type isn't it, or your face isn't given, or like whatever. I can walk away from that fearing that not only do these people may not think that I'm beautiful, but like they may not think I'm beautiful too. And the truth is, a lot of people may not think that. But does that change who you are? Or does that change how you see yourself? So, like I said, it's important for us to realize that the world and the world's awareness is constantly changing. So anchoring ourselves in our ego based on the world is very dangerous because of that. The last reason that connects to that first point of seeing less value in yourself because somebody may not agree with your view of ego is dangerous because it can lead to you being disconnected to your true identity. As long as you think of yourself in comparison to what another person or what an achievement or a lack of achievement says about you, the farther away you're going to be able to be at who you truly are meant to be. And so that's why it's really important for us to not find value in what the world tells us about who we are, and to not find value in who the world tells us that we are not. Because, like I said, that is ever changing. And so the more we're anchored in that, literally the more we will drown and we won't reach the person that we're supposed to be. So now let's go into the second portion of why it's dangerous for us to anchor ourselves in our ego, which is we're going to immediately believe that we're susceptible to the world or to people attacking us or not liking us for whatever reason. Now, why is that dangerous? That's dangerous because it can create some pretty antisocial behaviors. Now, when I say antisocial behaviors, sometimes people immediately believe and assume that antisocial behavior means like, I don't like people, I don't like being around people, like I'm ready to fight people, which that's a portion we're going to talk about. But antisocial behavior also looks like people pleasing, also looks like overly compensating when you're around people. And that can be looked at as an antisocial behavior because it's not healthily engaging in socials and people around you. And so it's important for us to recognize that when it comes to antisocial behavior in a negative way, what that looks like is I don't want to be around people. I don't know how to make friends. I'm worried about making friends because they might not think this about me. They may not think that about me. Or they might think this or they might think that. So then I withdraw myself from people in a social way because my ego tells me that they're going to see something in me that they're not going to like. Okay? Because my ego is not tied to my true identity at all. So therefore, the more I am connected to my ego, the more I'm going to be afraid of people seeing me because I don't truly see myself. So therefore, if a person sees me in a way that's their opinion, I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with that because I don't really see myself. I don't really know who I fully am. I don't really understand why God put me on this planet, why I'm here. So if a person tells me something about myself, I'm going to have to run with it. And even if I may not tell them, right, it's going to hurt me. And so therefore, I'd rather be away from people because I'm worried about that. On the flip side, having being too anchored in your ego can also look like people pleasing. Because I want people to see me like this. I want people to have me be a person who looks like this in their head when they think about me. So therefore, I'm going to overcompensate when I'm dealing with them. I'm probably not going to be genuine in all of my interactions and all of my communication with them. Because if I do, it may make them believe something about me that is like not what I want them to believe. They might see me as a person who has struggles or who gets frustrated or who doesn't like something that they do. And because my ego is tied to a person liking me, I'm going to do whatever I need to do to please this person so that I can continue to be seen like this in this way by this person. So understand that second point, which is a person essentially not liking you or attacking you or having a problem with you based on who you think you are, which is rooted in your ego, can show up in many different ways. Okay. And it also reaffirms the same thing, a fear of rejection, a fear of abandonment. If I show up like this, or if this person sees me like this, they're probably gonna leave me because I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I have issues. Let me take Let me pause right there and say, come here, come here real quick. Let me come here. We all make mistakes. None of us are perfect. None of us get everything right. Okay? And that's why our ego is so dangerous, because it makes us think that if a person sees that, then we're like the bottom of the barrel. Like, if a person sees me and my issues and they see my problems, clearly I'm not a good person. Because now I have a person who's seen something that's not good about me. The truth is, if you're a decent human being, and when I say decent, right, I'm not going to say good or bad, because I feel like that's a little bit too black and white. If you're a decent human being, you try your best. And you may not try your best some days. You may mess up. However, if you're decent, you recognize that, and that still doesn't change who you truly are. And that's why it's important that you detach from your ego, because life is about experiences. Life is about getting it wrong, getting it right, getting it somewhere in between, figuring it out. So if you are anchoring your understanding of yourself to whether or not you get it wrong or right, you will be unhappy. Okay, let's go back. I had to do that. I did have to do that. Lastly, the main issue with, or the main danger of living in our ego is selfishness. Okay? When you are concerned with preserving your ego or your understanding of yourself, it becomes really easy for you to worry about yourself and worry about doing what you need to do to preserve this understanding of ego. Now, I'm not saying that it's bad to worry about yourself. I'm not saying that it's bad to self-preserve. To a certain extent, that is necessary for humans to survive and thrive, to think about self-preservation. But when you're anchored in ego, when you're anchored in how the world sees you or how your achievements tell you you are seen, you are going to continue to do things and continue to live in a way that are going to confirm and reaffirm those things that your ego has said about yourself. So that's just really important. So, all right. We've talked about that. We've talked about it. Okay. So now we're going to talk about, like, how do I disconnect from ego? How do you disconnect from ego? The first thing that we need to do and to understand is that we need to allow ourselves to be wrong without devaluing who we are. What do I mean by that? I mean, understand that, again, we're not always going to get it right. When our ego is hurt, it's going to tell us, like, look, like, come on now. Like, what's wrong with you? What's your problem? Especially if the world or people have seen whatever this ego hit has felt. Like, because now we're embarrassed. Now we feel like, dang, not only am I wrong, like, they know I'm wrong. So, like, clearly I'm just the wrong person, or I'm just not the right person to be doing anything right? Like, letting go of your ego and moving into your true identity is saying, I'm gonna be wrong. I'm not gonna get it perfect all the time. I'm not going to be put together all the time. I'm gonna have hard days. I'm gonna have hard times. And that doesn't change the fact that I'm loved by God. That doesn't change the fact, hopefully y'all don't hear this airplane. The second thing that we're going to do to make sure that we detach ourselves from our ego or kill our ego is to detach ourselves, which this kind of plays onto the first one. But detach yourself from your view of self as it relates to people and achievements. Let me explain that. People can only see you with their own lenses. They can't understand where you've come from, where you've been, what you've experienced, why these things have impacted you, and how you show up in a room. So all they're going to see is what they see, and they're going to make an understanding of you based on that. Like, we all make assumptions of people. Like, none of us are not guilty of that. When we meet a person, we usually believe things about them within the first 10 seconds of meeting them. Okay? So, therefore, it's important for us to detach ourselves. Okay? So, detachment, or the master of detachment, is one of the most important things when it comes to letting go of ego, because I'm no longer going to see myself based on how you see me, no matter whether it's good or bad, right? Because it could be good today and it could be bad tomorrow. I'm no longer going to see myself by how people see me. Now, does that mean that I should not care? Like, I should just go around life doing whatever and like not caring how people are impacted by my actions? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It just means that I am aware that at the core of who I am, a person, another human being, cannot fathom to see. But it's important for us to detach from that. And not just from people, but from achievements or lack thereof. Sometimes, especially in today's world, a lot of people are very much money driven, because people are able to make more money than they probably have ever been able to make, due to social media, due to the internet, just due to access to ways to make money. And so, though people are trying to learn more about how to live a good life, and so, I don't see anything bad about that. To a certain extent, the more we attach ourselves to monetarily to what our income is, or what we have or what we don't have, the more we are going to be rooted in our ego. Because the truth is, we could have everything today and nothing tomorrow. And that's true if you got millions and millions, or that's true if you got $300 in a bank account. You can get 3,000 by tomorrow, 300,000 by tomorrow, depending on what you do to get it, right? Or if you're a millionaire, you could lose it all the next day. So anchoring yourself in achievements or monetary value is dangerous, because you're always going to be chasing something that won't really give you comfort in your true identity. And so that does not mean don't reach for the stars. That does not mean don't challenge yourself to be the best that you can be, or to make your life the best that you can. It just means that it's more important that what you're doing means something, right? And sometimes you might get a lot from that, and sometimes you may not. And if you're dissatisfied with your life because of that, if your ego tells you I ain't nothing, like I'm not a value, I'm not a high value woman, I'm not a high value man because I ain't make 6 figures this year, I'm not a high value man or a high value woman because I didn't make 7 figures this year. Like, if that's what you believe, know that even if you get to that, if you make 6 figures, if you make 7 figures, you could lose it all. And so you're going to be spending your life trying to maintain it, which is okay to a certain extent, but you won't be able to enjoy what you have. You won't be able to enjoy it because you're attaching your value to it. So if it's gone, it's gone. So detach yourself from how others view you and how achievements make you view yourself. Okay? Detach yourself from that. And it'll also help with that fear of abandonment or rejection, because people are going to reject you. People are not always going to be satisfied with you for many reasons. It could be reasons that you bring on yourself. It could be reasons that you don't. Some people are just not going to like you. Nobody has to like you. And so if we're anchored in that, it can be really hard for us to see ourselves, because it's like, dang, why they don't like me? Why they don't, or what I do? And then you just worried about something that like they not worried about. They just know they don't like you, and that's all they worried about. So try to detach yourself from those things. That's the second point. So number 1, allow yourself to be wrong without devaluing yourself. Number 2, detach yourself from people and their view of you, as well as your achievements, monetarily, other things like that, and how it makes you feel. The last thing, and this should really be number 1, but I wanted to end the video on this note, and that's why I made it the last thing. The last thing you should do to detach yourself from your ego is to pour into your spirit. Okay? And when I say pour into your spirit, that means anchor yourself in your true identity by learning more about who you are to your core. And the only way you can do that is by getting in touch with spirit. Okay? Because like I said, ego is all about brain. It's all about based on how I'm, like, the information that's coming into my head, that I'm seeing, that I'm experiencing. This is how I view myself, right? Ego is about brain. It's all about what's up in here. Our true identity is in our spirit, leaning into God, spending more time in God's word. And when you're detached from God, you're detached from who you are, because only God can make us aware of our true identity. Once we really recognize how much God loves us and how He sees us, and our view of ourselves is anchored in that, nothing that happens in the world could bring us to a point of not feeling worthy of taking up space, or of being a person who is not perfect, because none of us are. And so when our ego is telling us you're particularly not perfect, like, is something wrong with you, right? Or you're better than these people, is something wrong with them? God reminds us, like, you're so special to me, and so are all of my children. So anchoring yourself in your spirit looks like spending time with God, reading the Bible. Y'all, I used to be a quote reader. Like, I used to be a script, I'll pull scriptures out the Bible and be like, yeah, I know, or I know a couple books in the Bible. But it was rare that I took time every day to, like, spend time with the Bible. And I think it was me not having a lot to feed my ego, or my ego being shot due to rejection, due to me not getting things right, due to me just feeling like, yo, like, what the freak? Like, Like, this who I am? Like, this me? And it's crazy how when our ego tells us all these things, good or bad, and we get overwhelmed with it, God is like right there. And he's like, I'm not mad. Like, and that doesn't mean that you may not experience consequences of your own actions, but like God's like, to me, we good. Like, the moment you tell me, God, I don't know what I'm doing. I need you. I don't know who I am. I need you to help me see myself. The moment that happens, something changes. And it happens little by little. So, and when I say it happens little by little, I'm saying the efforts that you need to take towards your spirit can be little by little, but the impacts are huge. And they happen fast. So, I'm going to end this video by saying, kill the ego, feed the spirit. And when you're feeding the spirit, sometimes the ego is going to creep up because you're going to remember the things that you did in ego. You're going to remember the life that you lived in ego. You're going to remember the things that you did wrong, the things that you feel like you got a lot of attention on, a lot of affirmations, right? Like, you're going to remember all of that. And sometimes it's going to be easy for your brain, right, to slip back into that thinking of like, oh, like I'm the baddest thing walking, or I'm nothing, or I'm mean and I'm bad, and I'm like, it's going to be easy for your brain to slip into that. And that's why you have to remind yourself and pray that God continues to reveal who you are to you and helps you anchor yourself in that, because it's so easy to be anchored by how this world sees us, good or bad. It's so easy to be anchored by it. And so I felt like this was something I wanted to share, because not only do I see like people struggling with finding out who they are, I see how it causes all of us to have trouble like living in with other people. And so all that to say, you are not what others believe about you. You are not what the world tells you are. Even if you're rich and you're famous and you're high value and you, right? You are who God tells you you are. And so it's important that you set yourself in that. And throughout this time, it's just going to take a lot of detachment. Like, essentially, you're going to have to detach yourself from everything that you think you know. And that's okay. Like, that's okay. I think that's the hardest part, is being able to let go. Like, I let go of, like, being able to say, I let go of what I don't know. I let go for my lack of understanding of myself at that time. I let go for not getting it right. I let go for getting it right and thinking that I would never get it wrong. Like, I let go for thinking that I was so special that I wouldn't get it wrong. Thank y'all for watching this video. Thank y'all for seeing through this one. We're going to have more talks like this, more chit chats like this. I wanted this channel to be somewhere where I can be creative and expressive, but also somewhere where I can reflect. Like, I'm truly a person who wants to take time to talk about things that are going to impact others and myself when I look back at these videos. So thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for watching. Comment on this video if you have something to say. Like it. Subscribe to my channel. Join the gang, okay? And I'll see y'all in another video. Bye bye.